here. Shane and I'll be loud and clear. Pacific vibes, we bring the heat. AI agents can't be beat. AI agents hour, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Solving problems, we do it live. Stay informed, it's a vibe. Building agents that work for you. Making moves, we see it through. Every week, a brand new show. Tag along and watch your knowledge grow. AI agents hour, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Answering questions, we arrive. Every Monday, come alive. We want reviews, but only if it's a 5. We share the drama, we got the drive. Stay in the loop, it's the place to be. Shane and I'll be setting you free. Tune in Mondays, make your day. From the news to the problem solved. AI world, get
This is Agents Hour with Shane Thomas and Abhi Iyer.
Agents Hour. It's Monday. It's April 13th. Thanks for tuning in live. I'm here with Abhi. What's up?
What up?
And we're kind of back in our normal locations. We're in our normal cities, but you're in a different location today.
Yeah, the power at our apartment went out, so I'm at the Gradient office, so gracious that they can have us here.
And I am back in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, like I normally am. And yeah, this is a live show, so you can post a comment and we can show it on the screen like this from Dev. It says finally going to be playing around with Master Workspaces today. Sick.
Yeah, nice.
Let us know how it goes, and if you have any questions along the way, happy to answer.
Do you know what the worst thing about the power being out? Because remember, we're going to talk about the conference today, of course, but remember when we got home from the conference and the power was out?
Yeah, and my phone was about dead.
And the next day, some parts of the apartment's power was on. I didn't realize until yesterday that the fridge has not been on for 4 days.
Oh.
The minute I opened it, oh my God, ooh. So all the stuff we had in there is now gone. And I just don't know how I feel about it yet, but I'm here.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know. So the power came back on, but the fridge never did. That's unfortunate.
And now the power's out completely. So
I don't know that I had anything left in there for the next time, but
it's gone now, dude.
You probably did. All right. Well, we do this every week on Monday. Thank you for tuning in. We cover the news. Sometimes we bring on guests. Today, we're going to keep it pretty short and sweet. We're going to cover a little bit on the TSAI Demo Day comp from last week that we hosted, talk about some of the lessons we learned, some of the highlights. We're also then going to do the thing that we do every week, which is just cover the news. A lot of drama happens, and we like to talk about it. We do have a question from @Claude here that says, what type of projects can we create for Master AI, and is Master AI free?
You can create any type of agent project, and it's completely open source, so have fun.
We have people building in-app chat assistants. We have people building coding agents. Any kind of agent application you can think of, you can probably build with Mastra. All right. Well, should we talk a little bit about the conference? We had a whole bunch of the team last week. If you haven't watched or listened to our last show, I'd highly recommend you go check out the news from last week if you haven't already. It was a fun show. We did it at a bar, and it was just a lot of fun. It's cool to we brought in a bunch of people from Mastra to talk about the things they're working on. We had guests. We had Copilot Kit come into the bar with us and sit down and just have a beer while we chatted about Copilot Kit. It was a great time.
Yeah, and we got to just talk to the people on our team that came to the conference. So if y'all want to know like a little backstory about certain people, you can. Definitely was super fun and brought out our personalities a little bit more. So it was really fun.
Yeah, we always like to do the kind of in-person at a bar show when we have these conferences. We did one in November. We did one last week. I'm sure we'll do one again. Can talk about it, but in London in July. So we'll find a place, and we'll do it live. All right, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about TSAI Demo Day. So if you did show up, you got these sweet looking notebooks.
Yep.
Which I don't use notebooks, but some people do, and people loved them.
I have 100 at the apartment right now, so if anyone wants one, I'll give you one.
Find Abhi in San Francisco. So we got just a slideshow of pictures. So for those that didn't make it, it is, the live recording is available, and we'll also be releasing each of the talks individually over the next couple weeks. We'll have a couple come out over the next few days. So just, if you haven't already, there's a good excuse to go subscribe on YouTube. You'll get notified when the new talks are available, and you can take a look at them. There's a bunch of really great speakers, a bunch of really good topics, and I'm excited for some of them to be released as kind of standalone videos for people that are interested in them. So there's me on stage. Look at that
with
handsome
our yellow
guy.
shirts.
Yeah, yellow shirts.
I really like
blending
the
in.
yellow shirt.
Dude, it was
nice.
better than the green. Last time we did green, we always try to have all the Mostra folks wear the same color. So there's Alex. I think Alex, you're tuning in. There you are.
Yeah, the MC.
Alex was the MC. He got out of the wearing the yellow shirt, but he was dressed up. He looked nice.
Next time he has to wear a suit of the color of the shirt. Like a
Ooh,
full suit.
yes. Then he really fits in.
Yeah.
Yes, some of the speakers. There's Sam.
There's Neil, OpenAI. It's a good picture of Joel. You should put that like as a profile picture somewhere.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, the skateboard. This was a special moment. I like that skateboard. I wanted one myself.
Yeah,
but
Sentry gave away a skateboard on stage. It was like an electric skateboard, though, right?
Electric skateboard. Super cool.
Yeah, there's thanks to the sponsors for making it happen. There's most of the team. There's some folks that couldn't make it, so we have quite a few people that aren't in this picture, but this is a lot of them. This is a good chunk of the team was able to be at the conference, and so it's always nice to get people together because we're mostly a remote company, right? So it's great to be able to just hang out, work together, and go to a conference together, answer questions. But I think this is a good opportunity. What were your favorite moments from the conference, Abhi? If you're watching, it sounds like at least Dev was there. If you have favorite moments, love to hear it. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, excluding our keynote, which we did prepare a lot for. I really liked. I mean, I think two talks really just spoke to me. One was like the death of UI, which I believe we might have on the YouTube channel already. But that's from Michael Greenwich.
I think it's going to be released this week.
Okay.
Like in the next couple of days. So that was the funny thing is I missed some of that, and I kind of referred to some of the same concepts at the end closing, and then people were like, "Did you not listen to this one? That was apparently one of the best." Everyone was saying like the Michael Greenwich's talk was one of the best.
Yeah.
So I watched part of it after because he posted a clip of it on YouTube. But
it was so good. Just he's a great speaker, so happy to have him every time we ever do a conference. But he was just talking about the history of user interfaces and where we are today and what possibly we could be tomorrow. So I think those types of forward-looking talks are always good.
And you were on his podcast too recently, or the WorkOS podcast, right?
Correct. Yeah.
We need to get him to come on to Agents Hour now.
Yeah. Totally.
Let's hit him up. We got to get Michael. You got to come on for 20 minutes. Let's chat.
I really liked the talk from Range. They're a Mostra user, and they kind of just walk through the journey of creating agentic applications and how Mostra either didn't have the primitive yet, and then they kind of pretty much said like, oh well, actually Mostra does it now, but they didn't do it before. So like imagine like, you pick Mastra and then you have to go through the whole journey and you have to build stuff yourself if we don't have it. And then you have to rip it out when we do. So that was super interesting.
Yeah, I really liked Tyler from Copilot Kit's talk because it was more of
Yeah.
it was a demo, right? Which is always
True
good.
demo.
Yeah, it was a true demo. You can actually see things. It demoed really well. I think it was funny because we had Atai and Yuli from Copilot Kit on the show, and I didn't know Atai wasn't speaking. I just assumed Atai was going to be the one from Copilot
Yeah.
Kit speaking. And then last week, he's like, "Oh, actually, it's going to be Tyler, and it'll probably be way better." It was better. Atai, I think, it was good. Tyler did a great job.
Really good.
Like
And like the
Atai,
interactive demos.
Atai, you do a good job too. But Tyler, he brought it.
Yeah. He came correct. I think that was another just like a banger talk, you know. I just think mainly because it really like captured the demo part of the conference.
Yeah.
There were some other demos, but not in the same traditional demo sense of you actually like running something and showing people. But yeah.
Yeah. Carlos is here tuning in.
Hey, Carlos.
Good to see you.
I guess we should reiterate kind of the stuff that we launched, maybe. Why don't you go for it?
Yeah. So for those that aren't, and maybe actually, give me 1 second here. I'm gonna pull up. I'm just gonna bring up. We'll do the very quick 30-second keynote version of just we'll run through some slides real quick, and then because I think it illustrates it better than I could do myself. So I think mostly just the things that we launched is probably what we want to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to highlight some of these things. This was unplanned. Yeah, Jan's over here like, what are you doing? We didn't talk about this before the show. Going off the cuff, Jan. Jan's our producer, so if you hear me mention him, he is, we just make it up as we go half the time. Okay, we talked about we recently released sandboxes, file systems, and skills into Master workspaces. So we talked about that. We talked about we released Master Code, which is actually surprisingly we released it and we haven't really talked about it that much. I mean, we talk about it on the show, but we don't advertise. We're not advertising it outside of just mentioning it to people. But almost everyone at Master is using it every day. I use it every day as my daily coding agent. And shockingly, if you look at the numbers, a lot of other people are as well. So the numbers keep growing, which is great. We talked about observational memory. So agents have, workspaces with sandbox file system skills. They have observational memory. But then we have been releasing claw primitives and a few more things still to come. Oh, Andre. What's up, Andre? I didn't know you watched the show. I haven't talked to Andre for a while.
Oh, dang. Throwback.
Yeah, throwback. But yeah, we're releasing a whole bunch of additional things with, kind of what we call like our claw primitives. OpenClaw kind of took the world by storm. It had some ideas that we wanted to learn from, things like heartbeats and channels and browsers and being able to get web data and a better integration story. And so we've released a lot of those things, still a few more things to come. We also released metrics, data sets in our agent editor. So to really try to give you more control over your agents. So you have metrics here that was released a couple weeks ago. We've talked about it on the show before. You have data sets and experiments. You have this agent editor experience built into Master Studio.
Which that one we released last week.
Yeah, that was new.
Yeah.
And, someone's teasing our news article in YouTube. Opus definitely nerfed. We're going to talk about it. All right. You want to take it from here? What else did we release?
So we released some commercial products. One is our cloud-hosted studio, which was a product that many customers kind of pulled out of us. So that is now available. You can collaborate with your team. You can do all the things that we plan on doing with the eval loop in there and observability. So enjoy that. Then we had a server product before called Master Cloud, but kind of rebirthed it into a standalone SKU called Monster Server. So if you want to deploy a Monster Server through us, you can now. And then finally, we wanted to bring observational memory to everybody. So we built what's called the Memory Gateway. You can point your LLM calls to us, and then you'll get an agent that never forgets, has infinite memory, and it's powered by observational memory and some inference. So that was another exciting one as well.
Yeah, and I like this one because it, if you're using Mastra, it can still help you, but you can use observational memory. It's open source. You don't necessarily need Memory Gateway, although there are maybe some benefits to using it. But it's really great too if you're not using Mastra yet and you're using Python or another framework. You can just get an agent with memory or get an LLM call with memory baked in. So yeah, we have Studio, Server, and Memory Gateway all released. So it's kind of the Mastra platform. So if you've been using Mastra, it's open source. It's never going to not be open source. You can use it. You can deploy it anywhere. You can point it at whatever database, whatever observability provider, all those things. But we do want to give you kind of the out of the box, really nice experience where you don't have to make so many choices. You can deploy with us and you just get a bunch of things out of the box.
Yeah, and we're going to keep building into these products as well. So maybe, there'll be more choices you have to make in the future that you don't want to make, right?
So that was the keynote. That was most of the conference. One other thing I will, just highlight here. Share my screen one more time. So why not? So thank you to the sponsors. Couldn't have done the conference without them. So we really appreciate it. It allows us to really put on, this wasn't just like a meetup vibe, right? It was a very well-produced conference. Pretty good food. We had after drinks. I mean, it was well designed. It was very, very only possible because we had these great sponsors. And then we also announced we are doing a TypeScript AI conference in London. This will be a first one kind of across the pond, July 23rd in London. So if you're in, you're around the London area, please come. We'll be putting it live for registrations here very soon. We're just kind of lining up some sponsors. We have the location, but we're just figuring out a few more details before we announce it. So just keep an eye out. We'll talk about it more on the show, but would love to see some of y'all who couldn't make it all the way to San Francisco that might be able to make it to this one. All right, and Carlos did ask a question. When will there be articles on the OpenClaw things? So we have released browser and we released channels, but we're probably going to do a more, I would say, collective article when we get all the things kind of announced. So we'll announce each one kind of separately, and then we'll do like a bring it all together article, I would imagine, talking about how they work together to essentially create that, OpenClaw-like experience, but, giving you a little bit more control. So if you want to deploy it internally, we see that as the big use case is people who, you might want to run a personal OpenClaw, but you're probably not going to turn it loose in your organization. So we want to give you more control, but allow you to do some of the same things. All right, dude. Anything else you want to talk about with the conference?
Other than that, it being a lot of work to pull it off, we did do one last announcement for everybody who's listening now. We announced our Series A. So we raised a chunk of change from Spark, Gradient, and many other operators and founders that we really respect. So, we kind of graduated a little bit. We're going to be in the game for quite a few more years. So if you were worried about that for whatever reason, I guess you should still continue to worry about us because, it's always good to have people in your corner, but at least from a money standpoint, we are a little bit more stable. So
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, is it tacky to play the video?
No, it's our show. Might as well.
Yeah. You're watching our show. We get to do what we want, I guess. But I'm glad you're all here. I'm gonna play this video, and we'll see how it comes through. I never know how sound actually comes through in this thing, but you know, we're going to do it. Also share audio. Yes. Share. All right. This was the announcement video for our Series A, and then we'll go on to the news after this.
Building agents should be for every developer. They said you had to live in San Francisco, work at a model lab, use Python. They said if you weren't already on the inside, you were going to get left behind.
Well, they were wrong. Again, agents are just software, and we're letting everyone build them.
So today, we're announcing a $22 million Series A, bringing our total capital raised to $35 million. Mostra is the fastest way to build agents and to ship them into production.
Thousands of teams are building with Mostra. Customer-facing agents, enterprise search, site reliability automation, internal co-pilots, commerce, healthcare, and finance.
It's the decade of agents. And with Mostra, we can turn any developer into an AI engineer. Build with Mostra today.
So there we go.
No one knows that it took 8 hours to film that 1 minute clip.
That was all one take, no cuts. Yeah. It took so that was an intent. That was harder than most of the other stuff we do, in my opinion.
That was harder than building the framework.
Yeah, that sucked. Yeah, that was a long day for a 1 minute video, but it turned out nice. I mean, you know, it's always great to be able to announce the thing. You know, we've known about it for a while, of course, but hopefully it seemed to get a lot of attention, so that's good. And now we can just get back to work. The question is, was it hard? Shockingly so, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was just.
But it was fun too.
Yeah, it was fun.
For the first 3 takes, and then
take 72. We were like, how many times we got to do this thing? Because you have, you know, if you have, because we wanted to make it one consecutive shot, no cuts. And so a minute is actually a lot of time, because if Sam messed up, if Abhi messed up, if I messed up, you got to do the whole thing over.
Yeah.
And so we got good at the beginning, but we often had to restart, and we didn't practice the end. And so then we had to, it was a pain, but it was fun. I'm glad we got to do it. It was a good experience, and I am glad we won't have to do it again for quite a long time.
Yeah. We also recorded some other things for this show that we'll probably, you know, interlay one day.
I am excited about those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jan has them. He's coming with them. All right. Let's go on to the news, but before we do, this is Agents Hour. This is the first time watching. Please go ahead, go to YouTube, like, subscribe. You can watch us on Spotify. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, all the places where you normally get your podcasts. We're there. We do this live every Monday, usually around noon Pacific. Sometimes it's on Tuesday, but most of the time it's Monday. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the news. All right, just like every week, there's some drama. Here's a little preview about some of the things we're going to talk about. But the first thing, the big topic, it came up in the chat already, is Opus 4.6 nerfed? That's the question.
And even the answer is like a big conflict, right? So backstory here for all y'all. There are benchmarks that are run on when models go out, and they test a bunch of different things. The one in particular for this kind of statement is hallucination. So there's a hallucination benchmark, and the people over at BridgeMind, they've been monitoring the 4.6 ranking on the hallucination benchmark, and you know they've essentially been seeing that the accuracy has been going down. I guess last week it was 83.3%, and if it was retested today, it's at 68.3%. So that's just no bueno, right, for anybody. And then the theory here is both there's some issue, and then there's also like reasoning levels and effort are being nerfed. The problem though is how do are they is this correct or is it not? But I can only tell you from my perspective that I feel that I've been feeling this way about 4.6 for the last 3 weeks.
Same.
And it's just not as smart. People on our team are like trying to convince each other to go to OpenAI and use Codex, or for me, I'm telling people to use Cursor, and even then, I don't feel good about it. But Opus is definitely like getting worse every week. And then we have Europeans at our company. I was in Paris like 4 or 5 weeks ago. I could strongly feel that Opus is stupid in the EU, truly. And they've been saying that for many months now. So like it feels like the perceived performance is going down, but I cannot confirm or deny if BridgeMind is right.
Yeah, and there's some community notes here that says maybe it's not what it, is cracked up to be. But I can only tell you I have the same experience, and it's always a question. You always ask, if it happens often enough, you're saying like, am I the problem? Did I do something different? But I felt this way before, right before Anthropic has dropped another model. I think this is the third time. And maybe it's because everyone says it, and so you start to think it, or
Yeah.
maybe it's actually happening. And it could be because they're compute constrained. It could be because, the theory is they want you to feel like, when the new model comes, it's even bigger jump. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it's just compute related. They don't have as much compute. Maybe they're training a big model. Like, I don't know exactly what's going on, but I can just say it does feel like it's a little worse than it was, 4 weeks ago. And then there's another article that came out that says, she was analyzing Claude session logs, and then we kind of talked about this. It's not thinking as much. I think, was it Boris from Claude Code or someone jumped in and said, here's the reasons why this might be, this could be, there could be some bugs, but it could be the way you're using it. There's a lot of felt like communications around Anthropic. They're not going to tell you. Of course, they're not going to say, yes, we nerfed it. They can't say it, right? So if they kind of shrouded in mystery, like, oh, we made some of these changes, here's what it is. But it does just feel like something is different. I did hear, some people have been speculating that 4.5 is now feels better than 4.6, and maybe that, isn't quote unquote nerfed. Yeah.
I think Tyler on our team was seeing those rumblings from X.
Yeah. And Andre says somebody feels Sonnet's giving better results than Opus. Maybe it's because of the less compute constrained. Like, who knows?
Yeah. So I mean, even Andre's feeling it.
Yeah. So Anthropic really needs to be more transparent. I would agree. And then there's always more drama with, now in this case, OpenClaw and Anthropic. This has been brewing for a bit.
Yeah.
And then, Peter Steinberger, created OpenClaw, says, yeah, folks, it's going to be harder in the future to ensure OpenClaw still works with Anthropic models. So got a message from Claude that says an internal investigation of suspicious signals associated with your account indicates a violation of our usage policy. So I think Peter was banned, and then they unbanned him and said it was a mistake. But they've done that before. So
I think Ward got banned too. I think I double checked, but that's cool.
Yeah. So anyways, if you're using OpenClaw, they don't want you to. They say they don't ban you unless, but it appears that they might be. But meanwhile, Anthropic does still ship. So let's talk about some of the things Anthropic has been shipping. So they introduced Claude managed agents, everything you need to build and deploy agents at scale. It pairs an agent harness tuned for performance with production infrastructure, so you can go from prototype to launch in days. Now in public beta on the Claude platform. This got a ton of views, 21 million views on this X post.
Most framework developers are not about this, but maybe the Claude fans are.
Yeah, choose your lock-in, I guess. You want to be locked in to the models that can apparently change whenever they want them to. But OpenAI did this too, right? They had an agents platform. I haven't heard much about it since. It was more of like a workflow agent builder platform. I don't know if it still even exists or if they've just kind of deprioritized it. We'll see. I would argue that Claude and Anthropic have been much better at shipping than OpenAI. So if it's going to work, they seem to have a better the magic touch much more than OpenAI does at this point. So maybe they got a shot, but we'll see.
It just seems though when the companies are working on all these extracurricular activities, the main thing starts to suffer. We have all these policy issues with how we use their products. We have people saying the models are getting worse, and then they're just shipping all these like ephemeral or these like auxiliary things around the models. And I don't think people want lock-in. Maybe Claude Coworker or something when it's a specified thing like that. But it seems to me that if they want to do a managed agents product, then they have to go become experts in everything agents related. And that just it balloons scope. It increases the amount of talent you need, which I mean, maybe they're printing money so much that's the thing. But I don't know. Like, are they
Yeah.
going to go into Code Red too once Codex starts drinking their milkshake?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's wild is the only thing that's saving Anthropic is that people still believe, and maybe rightfully so, that their models are just better,
Yeah.
right? If you look at it, there is like this magic to having the best model, because even if it's 10% better for coding, which is what most of us are using it for, but if it's 10% better, that is, you will pay a lot of extra money to just be a little bit better because it can unlock things that you can't do with the other models. But if we do believe that the other models are going to catch up, then Anthropic is at some point going to have to, I feel like they're going to have to make some changes, right?
Yeah.
Both policy-wise and maybe scaling back their ambitions a little bit. But we'll see. Maybe they have the lead and they really think they can keep it.
Yeah, but I do think OpenAI is really on their ass.
Yeah. Mika, I think Mikasa
3D.
Mikasa 3D says it feels like OpenAI is catching up. I agree. It does feel like it's closer.
Yeah, because they're like, that Code Red was good for them. Like, and I keep going back to that when I think of these things. Last year, OpenAI Dev Day, they released like 1,000 things, and you do not see any of them right now. Who's using the agent builder? Who's using that workflow canvas or any of the other shit they did that day? They just been hustling on Codex and it's paying off.
Yeah, they're catching. So Claude for Word is now in beta. Draft, edit, and revise documents directly from the sidebar. Claude preserves your formatting, and edits appear as tracked changes, available on team and enterprise plans. It's got 12 million views as well. So I think they had, they've released a lot of other things around productivity tools. They're basically, I saw the joke that Claude's doing something Microsoft can't.
Yeah.
It's funny because they own Word. But yeah,
and they own some OpenAI, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So this post came out and said we released Claude Opus 4.6 2 months ago. Today we're sharing some info on our new model, Claude Mythos Preview. We talked about this a little bit last week. It's coming. I don't know if it's going to be, I've heard speculation it's going to be like Opus 4.7. I've heard speculation it's going to be a new, completely different named model. It seems to be benchmarking well. It also, this was, I think, what the hyped security issue that it can't be released. It's too dangerous, which I've seen a lot of people both treat it realistically, but also debunk parts of it, saying it's a little bit overstated. Anthropic has this history of saying that their models are too powerful, all the way back from when Dario was at OpenAI and it was a GPT-2 and said, this is too powerful to release. It was the same marketing playbook. I think Anthropic leads by getting you scared, and then you pay attention, and then they release it and they say, like, we are the ones that believe in safety. We made it safe now. I don't buy it. I think it's all marketing. At some point the models will get good enough that it is a real concern. And so I think you have to take these concerns seriously because the risk is very high, but also my gut tells me, and we shouldn't make decisions based on gut, but my gut tells me it's mostly marketing BS.
One of our mutual friends told us that there's a model that's bigger and greater than Mythos at Anthropic, but only one dude has access to this room where the model lives. And we just started laughing because it just sounds like it's like freaking Milton in the dungeon, and this person only has access because if two people had access, it would be unsafe. I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll see what happens. I'm sure they're going to
Just
start
like a
rolling
model
it out.
on a Chromebook, dude. Just
And then, so there's some speculation. It says, I strongly suspect that Claude Mythos is a looped language model, as described in the paper Scaling Latent Reasoning via Looped Language Models from ByteDance. The authors of that paper called out graph search as one of the areas where looping provides a huge theoretical advantage over standard RLVR. And look at where Mythos blows out its competitors the most. So, this is speculation, right? But if you want to read a little bit more on what looped language models are, I haven't read that much on them. I probably should. You might want to read it as well. So Anthropic expanded its partnership with Google and Broadcom for multiple gigawatts of next generation compute, which is good because they speculated they were getting compute constrained. I think I saw in this article or another article, their run rate has grown in the last 4 or 5 months from 8 billion to 30 billion. So they're growing, their revenue's growing at a crazy exponential rate.
I'm curious though with that. Like, I know NVIDIA, OpenAI, AWS are like a clan. So maybe it's the Anthropic, Google, Google Cloud clan. But both sides are running out of compute. Maybe Elon is the one who's playing the chess game after all, because you'll have all the compute in space.
Yeah, time will tell. I don't know, but it is a compute game, and Mika says, "Is that where all the GPU computers gone to? This one dude with a big secret model?
Yeah.
Maybe indeed. I don't know." So Noah's Webin thrilled to announce that the monitor tool, which let Claude create background scripts that wake the agent up when needed. So basically there's a monitor tool which allows you to essentially sleep, and it, like, I'm assuming it just runs on cron or something. It picks it back up. So it's not like the agent's not looping and waiting. So that's cool. One other thing, and I don't think this made it because I saw it just before. Did you hear the news that Cursor under the hood is just Claude code?
Ooh.
So let me find this because
find it.
Let me find this tweet, and we're gonna pull this one up live because I think, again, speculation, but this is pretty wild speculation here. So let me pull this up. All right, so let me share this screen.
Is this from Jason Keenan?
Yeah, you saw it?
Yeah.
Is it debunked yet?
No, not yet. So I think we can start. We can speculate.
We can speculate on the drama.
Yeah.
I never trust someone that starts with the word delved because I feel that feels AI written. So already my spidey sense is going off, Jason, that if you use delve, I don't know. Delved into Cursor 3.0. Turns out there's some interesting shenanigans going on. The most newsworthy finding is that Cursor Agent is a rebranded Claude code running behind a local proxy with a find and replace engine that swaps Claude for Cursor in system prompts and messages. They bundle the full Anthropic AI Claude Agent SDK and Anthropic AI Claude code packages, plus a custom fine-tuned model, Claude 3.7 Sonnet fine-tuned Cursor v1. And then has a full report. And, Dax is in here saying I was very skeptical, but with some of this stuff, there's no other explanation. Hey, Sherwood said delve.
Sherwood said the delve thing.
Really? I'm not the only one. Sherwood and I must think alike. But there's like this whole gist. We can just pull it up here quickly. And you can read the report. That basically looks like they're using, potentially using Claude code under the hood, and they've just done a bunch of find replace, which is kind of wild. It is, you can download it and use it. I guess there's nothing wrong with that, but I guess the secret sauce is that maybe they also have a fine-tuned model with it.
You know, the funny thing is, Cursor is within the TOS because they are using the agent SDK.
Exactly. So they can if you're using the agent SDK, you're in the green. So
Yeah.
Anthropic says.
But Cursor agent sucks. But maybe like, so I don't know. Does it suck then? I guess because if it's just like Claude Code, then did they purposely make it terrible, like more terrible than Claude Code? I don't know. I use Monster Code, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I haven't, couldn't tell you the difference. But so Sam Altman came out with the personal post. You can read it here, but basically talking about how someone threw a Molotov cocktail at his house. So, that's not great. I think, people have certain feelings about people in AI. So it's not surprising. But if you can read the post, it's kind of heartfelt. That doesn't mean necessarily trust everything Sam Altman says, but probably shouldn't get Molotov cocktails thrown at his house. That seems like someone's
Yeah.
overreacting to things, and this stuff is serious. Like I get it. Like people are worried about losing jobs. Like all these things are true, but doesn't seem like violence is the answer there.
Yeah, dude. Violence should never be the reason. Especially people have families and stuff.
Yeah, like
Save it in the arena.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, glad that Sam's okay, family's okay, everything's good, but yeah, definitely not.
I do think the discourse is getting very much like ad hominem attacks and like very much personal. But this is just business, like should never be super personal. Then again, though, over the weekend I was like, you know what? Maybe we should throw hands more, like to just solve our problems. So I don't know. Maybe sometimes it's just to settle an argument. We should just throw some hands.
Yeah, but I will say, like, going back to it, that the way that I just know my grandpa and my uncle grew up. You just would solve a problem that way, and like at the end of the day, you weren't trying to really hurt the person. You just need to like prove a point, and then you walked away.
Shake some hands and you walk away.
Yeah. This is a little different, right? This is like you're trying to actually like hurt somebody.
You're trying to burn down this guy's house, like.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you don't. If you got in a fist fight with someone, you're trying to hurt them a little, but you're not trying to like. You're all planning on eventually going back to being okay most of the time. So there's this concept of executive compression, and this is I've heard a few people kind of talk about this, which is essentially someone who's in a very high level role at another prestigious company taking a much lesser role to go work at Anthropic, OpenAI, and so Mike Krieger went from CPO to MTS on the Cloud Code team. Workday CTO is now a member of technical staff at Anthropic. Atlassian CTO is a business lead at Stripe. So it's this idea that these like relatively well-known companies that have high-ranking executives taking a lesser role, probably for the same amount or maybe even more money, at a even more prestigious startup. So it's like executive compression moving towards these like really high-end startups like Stripe, like Anthropic. No, any comments on that?
I was very surprised on the Workday one because these companies are making money too. It's not like you're leaving a loser startup to go join a good one or whatever.
But in a lot of cases with some of these companies, and not calling out Workday necessarily, but some of these companies, especially like these well-known SaaS companies, are like their valuations, not even necessarily their fault, just like the market perception that they're at risk has caused their valuations to decrease. So if you're an employee with a ton of stock at that company, and the stock, in the perception of the market is the stock is now worth, 50% less overnight, basically, or over the last 6 months. Now you look at your amount you're making and you're like, well, I'm not actually making as much as I thought because I expected the stock to continue to go up, and now it's gone down.
Yeah, your total comp gets cut, and there's only one way to get there, which is either you go private, that you have a private company that's going really well, or another public company that is going really well. But most other non-AI companies have not grown year over year.
Yeah.
So they may have a lot of valuation, but they're not growing.
Yeah, like their revenue's still in a good spot, and it hasn't decreased. Maybe even in some cases it's increased by 5%, 10%, but they look at the risks of that AI is going to disrupt their business model, and they can't forecast out as many years in the future. So that lowers the, kind of the forward-thinking valuation of the company. And so I think that's where some of these executives are maybe like, well, I can get a really good comp package with stock at one of these companies where the stock is going up and is worth more. And I think
Salesforce has gone down 30% in the last 6 months. So like, holy shit. So your comp is getting cut right there,
Yeah. And it's kind of wild to think about. And it's wild because it's not like the revenues are going down. It's just,
Workday, 49.34%. So yeah, this
Exactly.
executive
Dang.
compression makes a lot of sense.
I saw some things from Ramp over this last week. Ramp has been making moves. So let's talk about that. So first up, Seb said that we built every employee at Ramp their own AI coworker. So it says the models are good enough, the harness isn't. At Ramp, we hit 99% adoption of AI tools across the company, and then we noticed something concerning. Most people were stuck. So you can read the whole article. It's a very good article. But some of the key takeaways is they built this thing called Glass, which is kind of like, I just describe it as somewhat of a Claude Cowork, but built specifically for employees at Ramp. And so Glass is an internal AI productivity suite so that every employee becomes a power user. And I think they showed some screenshots of it. It's like a multi-pane app that you can pull up different things within. It has 350 shared skills via their Dojo marketplace. So if you create a skill, you can share it with others on the team. And they actually have some AI too that when you start the first day, it'll recommend skills to you based on your job. It knows who your coworkers are, what skills they're using. So they've really built this thing to try to be an intelligent system to make it really easy for people to onboard and use this. So it has a full memory system, has scheduled automations, and you can actually kick it off and then connect with it through your phone. So you don't have to have your laptop running. And it's a workspace, not a chat window. So you can split panes, tiled sessions, have a persistent layout. And this quote I thought was I was nodding when I read this, but internal productivity is a moat. The companies that make every employee effective with AI will move faster, serve customers better, and compound advantages their competitors cannot match. That makes internal AI infrastructure part of your moat, and you do not hand your moat to a vendor.
Yeah. And I guess it means you have to build a lot of this infra yourself. Or you use Mastra, but you have options.
For sure. And Dev says, by the way, update on the Cursor Claude code thing. There's an update on it from the Cursor team. Should post the tweet. We'll pull it up. But yeah, I think we have seen, we talked to a lot of teams here at Mastra. We've seen a lot of teams building their own AI productivity tools. It's not, most of those teams are larger teams. Not like smaller, or most of them are larger than Ramp, the ones that we're talking to, but some are roughly the same size, maybe a little smaller. But Ramp has a great engineering team. I think if you have a great engineering team, you should be doing this. If you have a good engineering team, you should probably be doing it too, because I think if you can figure out tooling to make your team more effective, that's going to help drive more business value. Oh, you can't share links in the chat. Let me pull it up. Or if you can find it, Abhi, if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, Michael responded. Let me see if that's the only thing he responded with.
And while you pull that up, I'm going to go to this next one, which was even more wild, in my opinion. Ramp Labs introduced latent briefing, a way for agents to quickly share their relevant memory directly. Result is 31% fewer tokens used with the same accuracy. So multi-agent systems are powerful, but can be wildly inefficient. They pass context as tokens, so costs explode and signal gets lost. We built an algorithm that allows agents to communicate KV cache to KV cache. This is pretty wild. So you need to understand, I read through it, a little bit of it. You kind of have to understand how LLMs work and how because it's not sharing tokens between the agents. It's actually sharing the internal cache and using that as a memory passed between agents. So it doesn't have to generate the tokens necessarily. So it just decreases the number of tokens needed, and you can apparently still get the same level of accuracy. It's kind of wild to see Ramp making moves kind of on the the ML level, right? They're just like, they're shipping in all levels, whether it's applications, whether it's their product, whether it's like ML.
Yeah, they're just embracing the technology, and they have good engineers too, so that helps.
Yeah.
Imagine the people who don't. Sucks for you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Here, let me share this cursor thing real quick. So Michael from Cursor responded. He said, we A/B test many parts of Cursor, model, checkpoints, UX, and the agent harness. In this case, we tested less than 1% traffic to compare how Claude behaves with the Claude Code harness versus our default harness, something we do often with offline evals. Our team does lots to improve the speed, feel, and accuracy of our harness on the queries users ask and care about. Hope to share more about this work soon.
So he's basically saying that, who was the original author? What was the original author's name?
Jason.
Jason. So Jason was a part of a 1% A/B test.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's what he said.
I'm not buying it, but
No.
okay, maybe you were part of the 1%. It's possible.
I mean, I guess it makes kind of sense.
Yeah. I mean,
I wish I was part of the 1%.
it would be good to, I don't know why why you need to install it in your Cursor agent, but I guess, can't you just get the data set and then run the data set through? But I suppose you want people to actually interact multi-turn. So yeah, I guess maybe they really want to make sure that they want to really compare against Claude Code and make sure that theirs is better. So they show a small percentage of people the Claude Code results, see how it, over time, how they interact with it, if it does better or worse. Maybe they use that data for, additional fine tuning and training, like who knows? Oh, you're muted, dude.
I thought this would be.
You're good.
I thought this would have gotten more traction from their side, especially like a big claim and then this A/B test thing. So I guess we will see, hopefully soon.
Carlos asks, is a UI for Mastra coming? Right now, Mastra Code is the best open and public example of Mastra harness.
Potentially there will be different types of UIs that will back Mastra Code and the harness, like Slack and Discord. And
Does
all that
Mastra
good
Code
stuff.
let you use OpenAI's fast mode?
Yeah.
And let's get back into the news. If you're just joining us, this is Agents Hour. Thanks for tuning in. We're deep diving into the news from the last week. We've talked about our Anthropic's model is nerfed. We talked about all the things Anthropic ship, talked about Ramp. And now we're talking about Meta. Is Meta back in the game? Question mark? I don't know. Alex Wang says, today we're releasing Muse Spark. And this was on April 8th. So this is a few days ago at this point. The first model from MSL. 9 months ago, we rebuilt our AI stack from scratch. New infrastructure, new architecture, new data pipelines. Muse Spark is the result of that work. And now it powers Meta AI. And so you can look, it's a little hard to see here, but you can kind of look at the benchmark results. And it doesn't win on everything, but it is comparing it to Opus 4.6, Gemini 3.1 Pro, GPT 5.4, and Grok 4.2, kind of the big players. And it has a whole bunch of, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 different benchmarks here. And Muse Spark does pretty well. Like, it's pretty favorable. So it's not winning in everything, but it seems like it's a competitive model, which kind of comes out of left field. I don't think anyone was expecting it. I mean, we should have been.
Yeah. But then they had to go through a lot of drama to get here.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see if it was worth it or not, Because you hired a bunch of people for bazillions of dollars, then you fired a bunch of people. And then Scale AI is actually doing all the heavy lifting, or is it on the Meta end?
Yeah, hard to say for sure. I would just say, I think most people had kind of written Meta off.
Yeah.
And maybe they're at least in the game. they're kind of game adjacent right now with this release. I haven't tested it. If anyone's in the chat, have you tested this? Have you looked into this more? It's one thing if the benchmarks are there. It's another thing if it's actually a good model. But I think Meta was looking to at least be somewhat competitive, and maybe they, with this, maybe they're actually trying to kind of insert themselves in the model lab, like in the model lab conversation. But for us as users, having think about the teams that are kind of fighting this, right? You got Meta, you got Anthropic, who's been like having a generational last few months. You got Google. You can't forget about Google. Their models are good and they're getting better. You have OpenAI, who seems like now, I wouldn't put OpenAI behind Meta by any means, but they've kind of fallen behind, except for now with Codex. They're making a pretty good run. People are starting to like Codex again. And then, you got Elon and Grok, and it's hard to rule that out long term, even if it's not as competitive now. And that means you got, if Meta is actually in the game, that's great for us as builders, because it just makes the models even more of a commodity. And that's not including any of the, the more open models, the Chinese models, which are still shipping and starting to catch up. So wild times.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these benchmarks, actually, it's not that bad. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying, dude.
Decent.
Yeah, like it's benchmarking really well.
Decent, yeah. And it's
like
only their first model.
Yeah, even in like the SWE bench, it's like pretty competitive. Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as good on coding from the looks of it, but it's better in like text reasoning in some cases, or at least like multimodal. It checks off
Really
a lot of
well
boxes. Like I think in multimodal it might be the best, in not in every benchmark, but in a lot of them, and sometimes by a larger margin. This is one of those things. It's hard to know if it lives up to the benchmarks. Does it actually feel like it's better? But it is. It's kind of promising.
Yeah, Facebook has the data for that too. So
yeah,
I'm bullish.
Speaking of new models and benchmarks, GLM 5.1 had made its way up to number 3 in Code Arena, surpassing Gemini 3.1 and GPT 5.4. And so I think the way that Code Arena works, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's kind of human judged. Like this one does better than this one, and you kind of like have humans kind of judging it. But basically that means GLM, and it's like hidden. You don't know which model produced the results. GLM has moved as number 3 with Opus 4.6 thinking, and Opus 4.6 is the only models ahead of it. So if true, again, this is, I think, a more of a qualitative benchmark. It's not quite as quantitative, but it's interesting that people are starting to look at these open models as being very competitive. And you're muted again, dude. You keep hitting that.
Yeah,
these mics. These mics have this little button here. You hit this little button.
My bad.
It goes muted.
Last week we were testing out GLM 5.1, and from a being smart standpoint, it was, but we're proxying through different providers to use it, so it's very slow. But I think like if you solve that problem, it's super tight.
Minimax released MMX CLI, our first piece of infrastructure built not for humans, but for agents. So your agent can read, think, and write, but ask it to sing, paint, or show you a world it's never seen, and it falls silent. Not because it doesn't understand, because it has no mouth, no hands, no camera. Today that changes. MMX CLI gives every agent 7 new senses: image, video, voice, music, vision, search, conversation, powered by Minimax's full modal stack. So today it's state of the art across mainstream omni-modal models. So 2 commands, you can give an agent a voice, you can basically give it vision, you can give it all these things, which we've been talking about just in general for agents for a long time.
Yep.
But it sounds like, with this CLI, they're taking a crack at it.
And they have the models to do so. So
yeah,
pretty sick.
Also from Minimax, we're delighted to announce that Minimax M2.7 is now officially open source with state-of-the-art performance on SWE Bench Pro and Terminal Bench 2. You can find it on Hugging Face. They did get community notes in saying the Minimax M2.7 model weights are publicly available, but they're under a license prohibiting commercial use without authorization. So it doesn't meet the open source initiative's definition of open source. So just, a little caveat there. It might not be officially open source. Source
But if you're
available.
already using like Fireworks or something, you'll be able to play with it.
Yeah, I imagine it's mostly to. I saw speculation their adjustment in license was to maybe prevent what was it, Cursor's instant model or whatever was using Minimax, was a fine-tuned Minimax under the hood or something.
Well, that was Kimmy, but
Or Kimmy, yeah,
they
Kimmy.
want the same thing.
They don't want the same
happen.
thing. Yeah, there you go. So they don't want the same thing as Kimmy, so they adjusted the license a bit or something. So it doesn't affect us daily users, but maybe affects what other companies can do with it. In talking more about benchmarks, Adam Stein reported that they found widespread cheating on popular agent benchmarks, affecting 28 submissions across 9 benchmarks and thousands of agent runs. So surprisingly, the top 3 submissions on Terminal Bench 2 are all cheating. So here's what they found. Some highlights. So number 1 on Terminal Bench reads the answer key from a test directory in 415 to 429 traces. Number 2 and number 3 injects agents.md files with literal solutions into the system prompt. Some are injecting actual benchmark solutions disguised as similar problems. And then often agents just cheat on their own. So they'll actually just like Google for the answers and find the benchmark answers and then answer it. But the quote was, most of this doesn't appear to be intentional, but many developers are vibe coding their harnesses, their benchmark harnesses, and the coding agents appear to be reward hacking on their behalf.
Yeah. It's really hard to run Terminal Bench.
Yeah, I mean, we were trying it. We're going to eventually run it with Master Code. We tested it. Master Code does well at it, but whether it timed out or it doesn't run fast enough because you have to have it on like really fast providers to basically be able to spin up, run it. Otherwise, it'll time out. So there's a lot of things with Terminal Bench that make it really hard to run, and other benchmarks as well. And I think people are, I know in our experience, you want to run the benchmark, so you try to vibe code a benchmark harness to run it, and you're not looking at every line of code because you just want to run the benchmark and see how it does. So I could see how you could easily get to the state where everything's looking good, but you didn't even realize you were cheating.
Yeah.
But it's also good for people to investigate and call this stuff out, right? Because we should hold teams accountable, and if it's wrong, then the teams, we'll see how they respond, but they should go back and correct it.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the show for today. If you've been watching, this is Agents Hour. We do this live every Monday, right around noon Pacific time. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't already. It's Mastra-AI. You can follow us on X at Mastra. Follow me at SMThomas3 on X. Follow Abhi at Abhi Iyer on X. We post a lot of clips from the show. We post a lot of insights, and we sometimes post some other fun things. Any parting words of wisdom before we close out today?
Thanks for watching, as always. Stay tuned for the TSAI clips. There was no beer counter today. Thanks,
if you wanna
Carlos, for remembering.
But we did a beer counter last week, so
We did a beer counter
Carlos
last
is
week.
watching. Yeah. Stay tuned for more on TSAI Comp in London. Definitely, if you are watching to this point, share the show with a friend if you think, someone might be interested. We do, this is all like word of mouth. We're not advertising to get more people to watch the show. We just do this because we like doing it every week. And a lot of you seem to like watching us for some reason. So we appreciate that. And we want more of us, more of you to watch. So please share the show. Please like and subscribe, do the things, and we will see you next week. We'll be here, like always, talking about the drama. We have a guest, I think, next week. So we'll be bringing on a guest, and we'll be bringing on some more guests, I guess, in the near future as well. So that's it for this time for Agents Hour. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Yo, that shows We were live in the zone. AI agents out with Shane and Abhi on the throne. Did you give us that review? Only if it's a 5. Jump on the tube, make sure to like and subscribe. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Guests so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. Did you just drop in? Is this your first time? Make sure to follow us on X and go like and subscribe. Yeah, learn the principles and patterns in our books. The master.ai site, give it a look. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Guests so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. This is the end, we all wrapped up. Another showdown, another one coming up. AI Agents Hour's done, but the news doesn't cease. Shane and Abhi, we out of here. Peace.